This is the story that has people across the country asking what happened to Emmanuel Haro, and now police say his parents may be lying.
I got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready, and somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
This video per KABC of his mom speaking to television cameras after she claimed she was attacked and her son was abducted. Here's what the baby's dad said, looking straight into the camera.
"Whoever took our son, please give him back."
But now law enforcement in Southern California say they can't rule out foul play, and they are having a hard time trusting what these two parents are saying now that the 7-month-old child is still missing and mom and dad have reportedly lawyered up. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. I have new information in the search for 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. We just spoke to a national nonprofit today, and they told us why they stopped helping in the search for this 7-month-old boy. I'll get to that in just a moment, but let's talk about why law enforcement are having a hard time believing Emmanuel's parents. Here's a picture of the 7-month-old child. We first learned his name Thursday night. His mom called police from a strip mall, and she had a terrifying story about what she said just happened.
I got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready, and somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
That video per KABC TV. The mom's name is Rebecca Haro. She has that shiner under her right eye. She says she got the black eye in this strip mall parking lot in Yucaipa, California. She said she was there because she was at her other son's football game Thursday night. They needed to get something from the Big 5 sporting goods store. But when she was in the parking lot, young Emmanuel, just 7 months old, needed his diaper changed, and while she was doing that, someone came up and attacked her. Here's what she told KTLA.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said, "Hola," and I didn't see nothing since. I woke up right here on the floor and I didn't see Emmanuel.
Now she claims that someone came up to her in that parking lot. All she remembers them saying is "Hola," and the next thing she knew, she blacked out. She says she was attacked, and when she woke up, little Emmanuel was gone. Now at that point, deputies started searching the area. This is happening an hour east of Los Angeles. But this story, which, if it actually happened, is a parent's worst nightmare, appears to be falling apart. Over the weekend, San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies released a statement, and they said that they found inconsistencies in the mom, Rebecca's story. And when they pushed her about that, they say she stopped talking to them. Now, on top of that, the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which is a national nonprofit, it advocates for children, they were helping in the search for Emmanuel when this story first broke. They were offering reward money as well. But in light of this news from law enforcement, they are no longer helping in the search. Law&Crime.com reached out to the nonprofit, and this is what they told us, quote, "We are receiving information that Emmanuel was not even reported to have been seen at the football game. The mother alleged they were all at as an eyewitness report that the mother's apparent bruise acquired during the attack at the Big 5 was in fact acquired previous to the incident. We're awaiting further confirmation from law enforcement. All of these, coupled with our previous notes, have led to our decision." Now here's specifically what law enforcement said on Sunday. Quote, "Investigators interviewed multiple individuals, including Emmanuel's parents, Jake and Rebecca Haro. During those interviews, Rebecca was confronted with inconsistencies in her initial statement and declined to continue with the interview. At this point in the investigation, investigators are unable to rule out foul play in the disappearance of Emmanuel." Now, here is the home where Emmanuel lived with his parents per online court records. TV cameras saw detectives investigating at Emmanuel's house overnight, and we're still waiting on an update today if that search found anything related to this case. The Haro's 2-year-old daughter has been removed from the house per KTLA. It also came to light that Emmanuel's dad, Jake, is currently on parole. He was convicted in 2023 of cruelty to children. That was related to a 2018 arrest. Now, even though law enforcement have said said that foul play can't be ruled out. It certainly has lit a fire under the public and wanting to know what happened. It appears there are family members of the Haros sticking by their side. Emmanuel's grandmother spoke to local media. She said that the couple are homebodies. They love their son. They wouldn't do anything to hurt him. She also said that Rebecca stopped cooperating when law enforcement wanted her to take a lie detector test, and her husband recommended they get a lawyer. Now, Emmanuel's dad also cried on TV, pleading for help from the public in finding their son. He even addressed the person that his wife claims took his son. Here's what he told KABC TV cameras.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
Again, Jake Haro, the dad, he's currently on probation. He's slated to appear next month in court on an alleged probation violation. It's unclear if that has any connection to the disappearance of his son. One other note. We looked through the parking lot on Google Maps where Rebecca says that she was attacked and where Emmanuel was taken, and it does appear that there are security cameras on the sides of buildings, but it doesn't appear to this point, or at least it's unclear, whether anyone has information of the incident that she claims happened. Emmanuel Haro's dad, Jake, has hired an attorney who says he is not representing Emmanuel Haro's mom, Rebecca, but that attorney is pushing back on the notion that Jake Haro is not cooperating with the investigation. I'll get to what that attorney said in just a moment, but here's some of the latest updates we have from law enforcement out of San Bernardino County. We know that deputies have now seized a family vehicle from the house of Emmanuel Haro. A 2-year-old has also been removed from the home. This is video shot by missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who's been on the ground in San Bernardino County this week. This is the Haro's house from above. Steve's going to join me in just a moment to talk about what he saw. Overnight, an online blogger who goes by Abby Blabby spoke to News Nation, and she talked about a conversation she said she had with the adoptive mom of Emmanuel's now 7-year-old half-sister. Again, this was in an interview on News Nation. That blogger talking about the young girl who is now named Promise, a girl who is now blind, who cannot talk or speak, she says. The adoptive mom of that girl is the cousin of Jake Haro's ex-wife. In 2023, Haro was convicted of willful child cruelty. That is according to online court records that we have. The Daily Breeze has an affidavit that says that the infant was admitted to the hospital with fractured ribs. This incident happened in 2018, and Haro is currently on probation related to it. That girl, again named Promise, is now 7 years old. This case is not connected to the search for young Emmanuel, but it is details related to Emmanuel's dad and his criminal history. It's unclear what happened to Emmanuel Haro. All we have from law enforcement is that they're still searching for him, and his parents have made those pleas on television in hopes of finding their son. All of this started in this parking lot last week on Thursday night when Rebecca Haro said she was attacked in Yucaipa, California, which is east of Los Angeles. Rebecca said that she took Emmanuel with her and she was going into a sporting goods store after being at a football game for one of her other children. They needed a mouth guard or something like that to bring back to the football game. Emmanuel, though, needed a diaper change. So Rebecca says before they were going to go into the store, she had Emmanuel in the car and she was going to change him. She says she then heard someone say, "Hola," and that is all she remembered. She says she blacked out. She woke up, she had a black eye, and Emmanuel was gone. She ran into the store for help, but no one had seen the boy. She called police, and then she went on the news with this story.
I got him out of the car seat, and I laid him down so I could get his diapers ready, and somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
She told that to KABC TV, and then she went to another TV station, KTLA, and spoke to them saying the same story.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said, "Hola," and I didn't see nothing since. I woke up right here on the floor, and I didn't see Emmanuel.
The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office said they found inconsistencies in Rebecca's story, and when they pressed her, she stopped cooperating. Deputies then said they could not rule out foul play in the disappearance of Emmanuel Haro. Right now, we know that deputies have searched the Haro's house. They say they have surveillance videos from the area of where this incident allegedly happened, but they don't have the exact location of where Rebecca says she was attacked. Jake Haro has hired an attorney. His name is is Vincent Hughes. He is defending his client, and he says his client is cooperating with the investigation and willing to give an interview. Here is what he said on Banfield last night on News Nation.
Why have Rebecca and Jake stopped cooperating with the police if they're desperate to find the baby and the police are looking for the baby?
I don't know where the statement that they stopped cooperating came from, Ashley. I spoke to the detectives yesterday, offered for Jake to continue to speak with them, have not been made aware of any requests today to speak with Jake. I don't represent Rebecca. That needs to be very clear, but I have not been asked to produce Jake. I offered to produce Jake. They voluntarily turned over all of their electronic devices, including the passwords. I think that's something that's huge that nobody has been made aware of.
Hughes says this couple is begging for the public to help find their son. He also says because their car has been seized and they've handed over their phones and passwords and they live in such a remote area that they can't really do much to help in the search. That attorney was very clear in the interview. He is only representing Jake Haro and not representing Rebecca. There is another suspicious piece of information that's come to light about Rebecca, and it's from a report by KTLA. It's reporting that Rebecca may have been seen with that black eye as early as August 3rd. The Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which is a national nonprofit that advocates for children, was helping with the search in the beginning. But then, once it came to light about inconsistencies in the story that Rebecca was telling, they say they pulled back reward money and resources from that search. Law&Crime.com reached out to the nonprofit, and this is what they told us. We're receiving information that Emmanuel was not even reported to have been seen at the football game the mother alleged they were all at. As an eyewitness report that the mother's apparent bruise acquired during the attack at the Big Five was in fact acquired previous to the incident. We're awaiting further confirmation from law enforcement. All of these, coupled with our previous notes, have led to our decision. One of the big tools that we've been using in covering this case out of California has been truthfinder.com. We typed Jake Haro's name into Truthfinder and his criminal history came up. Truthfinder is a really important tool for us because it helps us understand more about the people who are involved in the stories that we cover. But even if you don't work in true crime, it can be a great tool to give you some peace of mind. It's one of the largest public records search services in the United States. And with the paid subscription service, you can get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone. And right now you can get 50% off your first month of confidential background reports. Just go to truthfinder.com/OTC. We are still gathering details right now from law enforcement about the arrest of the parents of 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. This is now a murder investigation, and this is drone video shot by missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher above the home of Rebecca and Jake Haro today in Cabazon, California. Initially, law enforcement said they were conducting an operation at the home, but shortly after that, they told us Rebecca and Jake Haro were taken into custody accused of murder. At the time of this recording, deputies say they are continuing their search for 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. Here's a picture that law enforcement put out of the boy. This story started on Thursday night last week when his mom said that she was attacked and the boy was taken when she went to change him in a parking lot of a sporting goods store about 20 minutes from their home in Yucaipa, California.
I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember. Rebecca said that on KABC TV. Here is what Jake Haro, the dad, said.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
Over the next couple of days, as the search for Emmanuel continued, deputies say they found inconsistencies in the story Rebecca Haro was giving. They said when they called her out on those inconsistencies, she stopped cooperating with them. Deputies said they could not rule out foul play. Deputies also say they took a 2-year-old from the home and they seized a family car. They also had served search warrants at this house already, so it's unclear today what evidence made deputies make this arrest and know for sure in their minds that they were dealing with a murder. Jake Haro has a lawyer. His name is Vincent Hughes, and as of yesterday, he was claiming his client was innocent and ready to speak to investigators. Here's what he said on News Nation's Banfield.
Why have Rebecca and Jake stopped cooperating with the police if they're desperate to find the baby and the police are looking for the baby?
I don't know where the statement that they stopped cooperating came from, Ashley. I spoke to the detectives yesterday, offered for Jake to continue to speak with them. Have not been made aware of any request today to speak with Jake. I don't represent Rebecca. That needs to be very clear. But I have not been asked to produce Jake. I offered to produce Jake. They voluntarily turned over all of their electronic devices, including the passwords. I think that's something that's huge that nobody has been made aware of.
We did reach out to Hughes today for comment about his client's arrest. He has yet to get back to us at the time of this recording. He was clear in his interview. He is only representing Jake Haro. He is not representing Jake's wife, Rebecca, who is also accused of murder. It is unclear when the last time Emmanuel was seen. This is a huge part to this story. Rebecca said the child was with her at a football game for her other son when she went to the sporting goods store where she claimed that abduction happened. But information's come to light where there are serious questions on whether or not that was true. The Uvalde Foundation for Kids is a nonprofit that was helping in the search for Emmanuel. They offered reward money at first, but they told us they pulled away from helping and pulled their reward money when they learned that Emmanuel was not seen at that football game. And there were also major questions about Rebecca's bruise under her eye because that is not fresh enough to fit the timeline that she gave law enforcement and the public. We have a lot to get to in the search for Emmanuel Haro. At the time of this recording, Emmanuel is still missing. His body has not been found. Now, sadly, this is a case where deputies are not expecting to find Emmanuel alive because both of his parents have been charged with murder. They believe that this child was killed. Here are newly released mugshots for Jake and Rebecca Haro. Both have been in jail since Friday morning in Riverside County, California. They were arrested by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. This is video that Sheriff's Office put online on Friday, showing both of them being walked out of their home. This was in the morning. It appears they were still in PJs and boxers as they were being led to cruisers to be taken into custody. All of this taking place outside Los Angeles. Now, it's unclear what the evidence really is that detectives have that pushed them to make an arrest and to believe that Emmanuel was murdered. Now, there was hope overnight that Emmanuel's body would be found. Here is an image from KABC TV of Jake Haro standing with detectives in an area off a highway about 22 miles from his house. This happened last night. Now, deputies said as Jake was there, they searched the area with cadaver dogs, but they did not find Emmanuel's remains. Now, as for Jake's wife, Rebecca, you probably saw her initial interview on KABC, her alleged cry for help, saying that her son had been abducted and she was attacked. Here's her story.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," that's all I remember.
Now that is an alleged lie, according to deputies in Southern California. Rebecca is also, though, now talking from jail. She just gave an interview. It was posted actually around the same time that Jake was out with detectives. And before I get into what she is now saying, let me remind you how she and her husband went public with their alleged crocodile tears more than a week ago. Let's play that soundbite by Rebecca again.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
So there's Rebecca, like hyperventilating on KABC. That was on August 14th. I will note, the television station says they didn't see any tears in her eyes as she gave that emotional soundbite. She claims that she and Emmanuel went to a sporting goods store in Yucaipa, California Thursday night after they were at a football game for the Haro's other son. Before going into the store, Rebecca claimed that Emmanuel needed a diaper change, so she went to change him, and that's when she heard someone say, "Hola." The next thing she knows, she says she was on the ground and Emmanuel was gone. Now, she had the black eye to prove it, right? That she was attacked. Well, that story seems to really be falling apart. We've been told that that bruise looks like it had been healing for a good amount of time. And it's come to light that she actually reportedly had that black eye nearly 2 weeks before her call to law enforcement and her story of this alleged abduction. Here's what Jake Haro said to cameras from KABC as well.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
At first, you had people in this community rallying around this family. I mean, if this was a true story, this would be terrifying, that this boy would be abducted in the parking lot of a sporting goods store and his mom assaulted. But law enforcement, in the hours after, the days after that story was first told, they say they found inconsistencies in what Rebecca was saying, and they confronted her about it. And that is when they say she stopped cooperating with the investigation. In the days after that, Law enforcement served multiple search warrants at the Haro's home in a rural part of Southern California. You're looking at drone video here by missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who has come on this show multiple times with us as he has been following this case from Southern California. You can see members of law enforcement in this drone video taking bags of evidence from around the property. Now, this couple in TV interviews, they appeared to be a unified front, sitting next to each other, calling for more to be done in hoping that their son could be found. But then last night, a very interesting development, because on the same day that you had Jake out searching with law enforcement, or at least standing there as they searched, again, they didn't find Emmanuel's body, as they were searching in an area with Jake Haro, Rebecca yesterday did an interview with a reporter from the Southern California news group. And she, according to this interview, is not giving up her story. She said, quote, "I will not give up. I will not give up on my baby." She maintained that she is telling the truth, that she was assaulted and Emmanuel was kidnapped. The reporter did note that the black eye, it's still noticeable, but it has significantly faded under Rebecca's face. She also, it doesn't appear to have any other wounds. If she was to fall on the ground after getting punched, it seems that that small little black eye was the only injury that she had after this alleged assault. Now, it's unclear if Rebecca has had any communication with her husband since her arrest. It's also unclear if she has a lawyer or any sort of representation. She is due in court tomorrow, as well as Jake. We do know that Jake has an attorney. His lawyer's name is Vincent Hughes. He went on News Nation and said his client is innocent, asked why more wasn't being done by law enforcement to search for a boy that his client said was kidnapped and missing. He said his client was cooperating with law enforcement. Here's more of what he said.
Why have Rebecca and Jake stopped cooperating with the police if they're desperate to find the baby and the police are looking for the baby?
I don't know where the statement that they stopped cooperating came from, Ashley. I spoke to the detectives yesterday, offered for Jake to continue to speak with them, have not been made aware of any requests today to speak with Jake. I don't represent Rebecca. That needs to be very clear, but I have not been asked to produce Jake. I offered to produce Jake. They voluntarily turned over all of their electronic devices, including the passwords. I think that's something that's huge that nobody has been made aware of.
Now, that interview was prior to Jake's arrest. When his client was arrested, we reached out to Hughes' office. We spoke to an assistant who said that he would get back to us, and we have not heard back at the time of this recording. There are several major questions that remain unanswered right now in this story. The biggest ones, of course, where's Emmanuel? What happened to Emmanuel? But it's also unclear the last time anyone saw this boy. True crime blogger Annie Elise told News Nation that it's been at least a month, according to people who she has spoken with. It's also been reported that people didn't see Emmanuel at that football game that his mom claims they were at before she says she was assaulted. It's also been reported that the Haros were in the parking lot of that sporting goods store in Yucaipa weeks ahead of the night that Rebecca says she was attacked, and the couple allegedly asked employees of that sporting goods store where their security cameras were because at the time they were claiming their car had been broken into. Then you just have to wonder what Jake told detectives yesterday to bring him to that field. Was he just toying with them? Or does he truly know where Emmanuel's body is? And is he completely splitting from his wife's story that she was attacked? Now, while we're here talking about Jake, it's also important to talk about his history. In 2018, he was arrested for willful child cruelty. He was convicted of that in 2023, and he's currently on probation. And that has raised a lot of questions for prosecutors and how he was able to get that deal. The Daily Breeze media outlet has an affidavit from that case. It says that Haro's 10-week-old daughter was sent to the hospital with fractured ribs, just 10 weeks old. True crime blogger Abby Blabby spoke to the adoptive mom of that little girl who's now 7 years old. And the woman says the girl's blind, she can't speak, all because of what Jake Haro allegedly did. Haro also was expected in court next month for allegedly violating his probation on that case for having a firearm. Now, he is charged with murder, just like his wife, and both are due in court tomorrow on those charges in Riverside County, California, as the search for little Emmanuel continues. When Rebecca and Jake Haro first appeared on television, in the hours after they claimed that Rebecca, the mom, was attacked, and young Emmanuel, just 7 months old, they say, was kidnapped in the parking lot of a strip mall in Yucaipa, California, they appeared as a united front. It's likely, though, they haven't had much contact since their arrest on Friday last week. They're being held at separate facilities in Riverside County, California. This video just in from News Nation. Jake and Rebecca Haro made their first court appearances today in Riverside County, California. They were both in jail jumpsuits. They didn't say anything during the brief court appearance. Bond for the two is now set at $1 million each. They're next expected in court on September 4th, which is Thursday next week. Today, the Riverside County District Attorney officially filed charges against the Haros. We have the criminal complaint which charges Jake and Rebecca with murder and a felony count of filing a false report. In the documents under the murder count, it says that the Haros killed the child, who's only identified as Baby Doe, sometime on or between August 5th and August 14th. Now, the 14th was when Rebecca claimed she was assaulted and Emmanuel was taken from that strip mall parking lot in Yucaipa, California. This is the first time, though, that we have seen law enforcement identify that date of August 5th. This document also has a paragraph talking about how this is a case of alleged domestic violence and previous acts of domestic violence could be used as evidence against the Haros. Both were arrested on Friday last week. A SWAT team took them into custody from their home. When this story first started, the couple allegedly tried to point the attention away from them, claiming that 7-month-old Emmanuel was kidnapped after Rebecca was punched in the face and assaulted, blacking out in a parking lot in Yucaipa, California. Here's what both of them told KABC TV.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
The TV station did note that they did not see tears in Rebecca's eyes. Law enforcement said that the story just didn't add up. They couldn't rule out foul play. But then days later, the two were arrested, and this case went from being a missing persons case to a search for remains in a murder investigation. On Sunday, there was a major development. This is a picture of Jake standing in an area off a highway about 22 miles away from his home. He's in a jail jumpsuit. He's standing with detectives. And that really is all we know, or all law enforcement have confirmed. They haven't said why they went to that area, and they haven't said anything about what Jake may have told them since being in custody. But shockingly, on the same day, Rebecca spoke to a reporter named Brian Rocco, a Southern California news group. And Rebecca, from jail, is sticking to her story, saying that she is the victim of an assault and that her young boy was kidnapped, and she wants him to be found and for people to be out searching for him, even if law enforcement and seemingly the rest of the world say that's a lie. We have a couple big updates to give you today in the case involving Emmanuel Haro. The Riverside County District Attorney said that he has an idea of where Emmanuel Haro's body is, and he also has an idea of what happened to Emmanuel Haro at the hands, allegedly, of his parents. DA Michael Hestrin held a news conference Wednesday alongside law enforcement who have been working this case. And not only did we learn more about the search for Emmanuel and the case against his parents, we also learned more about a previous child abuse case involving Jake Haro that goes back to 2018. And the DA did not hold back in saying the judge gave Haro a break and it was a bad decision. Now, before I get to that part of the story, let's get you the latest on where things stand right now in the search for Emmanuel Haro and the case against his parents. This is video per News Nation of Jake and Rebecca Haro in court on Tuesday. They're now officially charged with the murder of their 7-month-old son. Their court hearing on Tuesday was a brief one. They didn't speak, they didn't show much emotion or enter pleas. They are expected to be arraigned on charges next week, September 4th. Now, we did learn in the criminal complaint yesterday that we received that law enforcement believed that Emmanuel Haro died as early as on or around August 5th. That's 9 days before his parents went on KABC claiming that Rebecca Haro, the mom, had been attacked and young Emmanuel was kidnapped from a parking lot in Yucaipa, California.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
Jake and Rebecca Haro are also facing a felony charge of filing a false report. Law enforcement today said it was within 24 hours that they knew in their opinion, that the Haro story just wasn't true. A major update from today's news conference was when the Riverside County District Attorney was asked if he had any idea on where baby Emmanuel's remains are located. This is per News Nation.
Yes, we have a pretty strong indication of where the remains of baby Emmanuel are. That investigation is ongoing at this time.
The DA wouldn't go deeper into where that is, and he wouldn't flat out say that they know where Emmanuel's remains are located. Now, you might remember this image per KABC of Jake Haro with deputies off a highway about 22 miles from his home on Sunday. The remains of Emmanuel weren't located at that time. Now, when asked about what happened during that search and why Jake Haro was out there, the San Bernardino County Sheriff said they were getting some level of cooperation from the suspect, but he would not go into more detail. But then, a bombshell report today per the Uvalde Foundation for Kids. It's a nonprofit that was originally helping in the search for Emmanuel Haro, and they told us that they've learned that Jake Haro confessed while in jail. They say Haro confessed to a Perkins informant. That is an undercover law enforcement officer posing as a fellow inmate. Now, we're working to get comment from law enforcement about that and confirm if they'll tell us if Jake has actually confessed. It does appear, though, at least at the time of this recording, his wife, who is being kept at a separate facility, she is sticking to her story. At least she was on Sunday when Jake was out with deputies, because Rebecca Haro gave an interview to a reporter with the Southern California News Group from jail. And we spoke with reporter Brian Rokos on Tuesday, and here's what he told us she said.
She, stuck to her guns. I gave her every opportunity to say, well, Jake was behind it, or, I'm a victim of domestic violence. Gave her ample opportunity to change her story.
It's unclear what Haro specifically said in jail, but we did just learn from the district attorney how they believe baby Emmanuel died. More now per the cameras of News Nation.
The filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused, a victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries.
Another part of this news conference was information on a previous child abuse case involving Jake Haro when he was married to someone else. It happened in 2018. Haro's then 10-week-old daughter, just an infant, had to go to the hospital. She had broken bones, and Haro was charged with cruelty to children. In 2023, he was sentenced in the case, and the DA says the girl, who's now 7 years old, has lifelong injuries because of Jake Haro. She is bedridden. She can't talk. She has other challenges in her life, all because of the man who allegedly then murdered his 7-month-old son. Now, for as horrific as that 2018 crime was, Haro didn't go to prison. He was given a suspended sentence. It wasn't a plea deal, though. This was a plea through the court, the DA says. The decision to not give Haro a steep prison sentence was made by a judge. It was a judge in Riverside County, but they were visiting from San Bernardino County, according to the district attorney. Here is what the Riverside DA said about that. He has been on the job since 2014, so this was a case that his office prosecuted.
And the judge decided, as is the judge's right to do, in that case, he decided that Mr. Haro deserved an extra break and gave him probation and basically 180 days of work release, which ends up being like community service. I will say that it was an outrageous error in judgment by this judge.
The Haros are being held in separate jails, and again, they'll both be in court on September 4th. I'll get to my conversation in just a moment with the reporter in Southern California who may be the only person who has spoken with both Jake and Rebecca Haro since their arrest nearly a week ago. The Haros are being held at separate facilities. This is video per KTLA of when they were in court this week in Riverside, California. Both parents are charged with murder and a felony charge for filing a false report in the disappearance of their 7-month-old son, Emmanuel. Yesterday, the Riverside County District Attorney said Emmanuel died of prolonged child abuse.
The filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused, a victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries. That's what we believe.
You'll hear what Jake Haro said in response to that in just a moment. There was also a report that came out yesterday that Jake Haro confessed to an undercover law enforcement officer in jail, confessed to killing his son, is what the report said. This is from the Uvalde Foundation for Kids. It's a national nonprofit that helped with the search for Emmanuel before law enforcement said that the parents were lying. News Nation also came out with a report saying that Jake Haro had confessed to killing his son. There were a lot of similarities in the reporting between News Nation and what the foundation was saying, but in the News Nation report, they said that Jake Haro admitted to this informant to rolling over in bed and killing Emmanuel that way before throwing his body out in the trash. At the start of the news conference yesterday, the Riverside DA said it was important for him to speak because the Haros were the ones who spoke first in this story. They went on TV back on August 14th. This is video per KABC.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
The Haros appeared to be a united front up until their arrest on Friday last week. This is video from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office of deputies taking the Haros into custody. But now there appears to be a shift in what each of them are saying since they've been in jail and separated. Brian Rokos spoke to Rebecca Haro on Sunday last week in jail. He works for Southern California News Group. He says that Rebecca told him that she was attacked in a parking lot in Yucaipa, California, and Emmanuel was abducted. The very same story she told in that local news interview and to law enforcement going back on the day she said that Emmanuel was kidnapped. It's important to note that law enforcement believe that Emmanuel died as early as on or around August 5th, which was roughly 10 days before the news report that Rebecca and Jake said, where Rebecca was allegedly attacked in that parking lot in Yucaipa. But on that same day that Brian Rokos talked to Rebecca Haro in jail, Jake Haro was out in a field with deputies who were searching for Emmanuel. This is an image per KABC. To this point, it is still unclear why Jake Haro was with deputies in that field about 22 minutes from his house, right off of a highway. Law enforcement said they did not find Emmanuel's remains that day, and they still do not have Emmanuel's remains right now. Jake Haro, though, is speaking from jail. He did an interview with that same reporter, Brian Rokos, the person who spoke to Rebecca Haro on Sunday. And I spoke to Brian about what Jake Haro told him a short time ago. Joining us now is reporter with Southern California News Group, Brian Rokos. You can read his work on pressenterprise.com, and he just spoke with Jake Haro in jail. Big interview get here, Brian. We really appreciate your time being with us on Law&Crime. Let's get into it. What did Jake Haro tell you in jail?
Well, his interview was different from the one I did with Rebecca, in that Rebecca stuck with the account that she was a victim of a mugging, that baby Emmanuel was kidnapped. And Jake did not say that. He didn't say there was a kidnapping. He didn't say there wasn't. All he said was that Vanessa was innocent. And I asked him directly, "Are you responsible for the disappearance of Emmanuel?" And all he would say was, "Well, I can't really talk about it on the advice of my attorney." He was unaware that earlier in the day that Mike Hestron, the Riverside County District Attorney, had said they believed that Emmanuel died from ongoing abuse. And so I told Jake what the district attorney had said, and he said, "That's not true at all." But what he didn't say was there some sort of short-term abuse? I asked him, was there an accident? I gave him, lots of avenues to go down, and he just wouldn't want to talk about that at all. So you wonder what is there?
Considering that he, the big question that you and everybody has is like, what happened to baby Emmanuel? And he agrees to this interview, and yet when you ask that question, you kind of get a non-answer. based off legal advice and all this. Why do you think he agreed to do the interview?
Well, he seemed to be a talker. He had points he wanted to make. And the way I approach these interviews is always, I'd like to tell your side of the story in our newspaper. And for a lot of people, that's just irresistible, especially when they feel like they've been wronged, or maybe sometimes they feel like they can say something that would be favorable to their situation. But what he really wanted to talk about in length was his 2023 uh, conviction, where he pled guilty to willful child cruelty. And I didn't put a lot in the article just because I wasn't going to be able to get the other side of the story. But he really dumped on his wife at the time, Vanessa, about her possible role in the very, very serious injuries to their daughter, Carolina, who is now permanently bedridden. Jake had said that he was bathing the baby, and she slipped through his fingers and hit her chest on the sink divider, and that at the time it did not appear she was injured. But then later that night, in the middle of the night, Vanessa woke him up and said, "Hey, there's something wrong with the baby," and he felt her sides, and he felt a crackling, and that was a description that was in court documents, and that was a description he gave me uh, yesterday. And he made various accusations about Vanessa, about her suitability as a mother, and about her, the way she was conducting herself that night. And he made it clear that he thought he was innocent. He made it clear that he wanted to take the case to trial, but that he felt like he got pressured to make a plea. And he thought the sentence of 180 days in work release, where you show up to the jail and then you're let go at night after picking up trash or whatever, and a suspended 4-year prison sentence was fair. In his words, uh, he said the judge thought he was innocent. Now, I plan to get the transcript from that hearing and find out exactly what was said.
Yeah, because yesterday, the DA in Riverside County, I mean, in the news conference, very much the opposite opinion about how all that went down, and said that the judge had even said that Jake Haro got a break. And that, the incident happened in 2018, and then the case is done in 2023, which was an interesting timeline. When you spoke with Jake Haro in jail, what stood out to you about his body language?
He was sweating. He was wiping his face. Of course, he's in a jail, and it's 100 degrees out there in Banning, so I don't know what sort of air conditioning he had in there. Uh, he didn't seem scared. He didn't seem worried. He seemed more about getting his point across about how he felt like the district attorney was, and other investigators were making the assumption that just because he had the 2023 conviction that, oh, he must have killed baby Emmanuel. He feels like that they made that leap without evidence. And
Did
so that's what he's concerned about. But he wanted to talk, very definitely.
did he, even though he gives kind of the, well, and the advice of the lawyer, I can't really talk about this, talk about that. And then like sometimes for me in an interview, maybe you try to take, you go left and they say, not there. And then maybe, there's other little pieces you can try to peel away. Like, did he give any nugget whatsoever that stood out to you as far as what we've heard? He was on TV saying, please bring my son home, and then now he's in jail. Did he say anything that kind of stood out to you that kind of pieced together what he might think happens, or no? Obviously, he knows what happened.
Obviously, these are, well, he acknowledged that these are very serious charges. Uh, he acknowledged the people that have been calling for his hide, the people on social media. He really didn't offer much about, the search, resuming the search. We've gone back and forth. He was cooperating. He was not cooperating, depending on who you talk to. And he said he was fully cooperating. And and that dovetails to something that the San Bernardino, excuse me, the San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes said at the news conference that they had been receiving cooperation from suspects. So whether that included Jake Haro saying, "I buried the baby out by the freeway," I don't know. Jake wouldn't address how he wound up with the investigators out in the Badlands there, as they're called on that brushy hillside. It seems like there's something there that he's not saying, and it's more than just, well, Emmanuel was kidnapped, but I can't jump that far ahead.
Yeah, because it's yesterday you have the big report comes out from News Nation, and then there was this nonprofit that had sent us a note, the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which were involved in the search early, then they weren't. And then, both, it seemed very similar that there was this jailhouse confession, they said. The informant, a Perkins informant, which I had never heard of, who, according to the report, they go in, they sit with Jake Haro. It's actually a law enforcement officer, and he spills it to him saying, the report said that Jake had rolled over on Emmanuel. That's how he died. And then they put Emmanuel's body in the trash. Law enforcement has pushed back on that and said that that is just not true. Was there anything in your conversation with him and in covering this story that stood out to you when that first started to make headlines yesterday?
Yeah, I was unaware of those reports at the time I spoke uh, with Jake. But looking at the reports, one was that supposedly that Jake had, they had killed Emmanuel and they put him in the trash. And the other one on that show from the same person was that Jake had buried Emmanuel out in a rural area. And the reporter on that said he double checked, triple checked with his sources, and he believed both accounts to be true. But the odd thing is, both can't be true. It has to be one or the other. And now law enforcement is saying neither of them are correct. So, it comes back to when people use unidentified sources for information, you really need to think hard about whether that's true. I mean, we at the Southern California News Group are very, very, very reluctant to use anonymous sources unless we know that the person is in a direct position to know, and it's something that we might be able to confirm uh, uh, later on. So it's hard for people, as you've seen with all the vloggers and bloggers and amateur online sleuths and so forth, putting forward their own theories about what's happening, and private people trying to organize search parties. It's very difficult for the public to be patient and wait for law enforcement to do their job and to get to the bottom of the things, which they eventually will.